Hello and welcome. This is a podcast, The Unhinged Binge. I'm the person talking, Lego. Today I would like to rant about a movie I watched called Monster in the Closet, a 1986 film written and directed by Bob Dolan. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. With story by Bob Dolan and Peter L. Berquist, who was the second unit on Superman. Way to go, Peter. That's cool. It was distributed by our cinema savior, Troma Entertainment. Its tagline reads, "It's out, it's out, it's out." I'll talk about the stars when I talk about the film. I was recommended this film, Monster in the Closet, 1986, on Tubi, where I find most of my movies, because Tubi is the best. The poster is sort of a monster hand coming out of a closet, and I found it very reminiscent tonally and visually of My Mom's a Werewolf, if you've seen that film. I think this movie, Monster in the Closet, 1986, is better than My Mom's a Werewolf, but it's still very hokey intentionally so. I feel like it has a bit of like a 50s throwback to that sort of like monster movie kind of cheesiness, which I love, honestly. I was, however, it's so ridiculous. I was shocked by how overtly queer the movie is. Okay, I know it sounds dumb given the title, but I really just thought it was gonna be a silly Troma monster movie about a monster in the closet or similar to one that you might think of like a monster under the bed. And it is that, but it's so much more. I absolutely adored this film. I'm gonna go into details about the movie, but first I really want to talk a little bit about where queer depiction in horror films was in the 1980s, just a bit, to kind of give you a better understanding of like why I love this movie so much. Because I love 80s horror movies. That's like my favorite subgenre of film. And as a sapphic, I just appreciate a gay horror movie. I just think they're the best personally. And gays are really what makes horror. We are. Like queer people have been making horror since the dawn of horror. We've been making the best horror. And queer people are definitely very adamant fans of horror films. So I think we should just throw ourselves a bone and talk about them a little bit, okay? So what's kind of been titled the gayest slasher ever made, which I mean, at this point, I'm sure it's been eclipsed. But in terms of 80s, yeah, I do think it's Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. I have I have mixed feelings about this film. It is my favorite of the Nightmare on Elm Street films. I've just never been huge on the Nightmare on Elm Street films outside of like watching them at slumber parties when I was a youth. Yeah, they just didn't grab me as much as, other 80s horror films did, but I really like number 2, and, I think it's the 6th one, Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. I hesitate to say 6 because I just always erase Dream Child from my mind and always wanna call it the 5th one. But going back to this film is like a Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, is so overtly queer. I don't even wanna say it's coded. I don't even wanna say it's subtext. Like, it's so obvious. It's obvious in the writing, Mr. Screenwriter, who's a douchebag. It's obvious in the fact that they cast a male lead to be in, at that point, what was already very obviously generally female role. It's the final girl. I think automatically when you cast a male in that position without changing anything surrounding the film, then you're automatically putting them in an effeminate role. In addition to having cast a gay man as a lead, I think even if you'd reversed it and you cast like the actor who played Grady in the role as Jesse Walsh, I still would have come out as being overtly queer because of the whole situation with the gym coach, as well as just, I don't know who did the setting design, but Probe, the game, the No Girls Allowed sign, whatever was going on in Grady's room, it visually very gay too. It's just, it is so obviously so queer. And I think there's a reading, when you're looking at it, very similar to Jennifer's Body, that is the queerness is the monster, and you defeat the monster by allowing heteronormative love to win the day. However, I think sometimes people forget that the end of the movie does Jesse Walsh get with discount Meryl Streep, because at the very end is they do the same ending as the first film, where there's a dream scare at the end, a final seat jumper, if you will, as Tom Savini calls it. So did Jesse Walsh survive, or did Freddie end up getting him after all? We don't know. That character never returns, because we do know in Dream Warriors that the ending of the first Nightmare on Elm Street, like the jump scare thing, her mom did really die. So that to me implies that Jesse really did die, that at the end it seems like he accepted heteronormative love and that saved the day, defeated the gay monster, but the gay monster came back and got Jesse. So maybe we did win. Maybe this was a day for Skittles. Who knows? We don't, because they're not going to make a sequel to that one, which they should, but whatever. I move on. We have vampire films, which vampire films definitely had been queer before, like overtly queer before the 80s. Kind of the history of vampire films is some that has just been very, very, very queer, going back to like John Polidori's The Vampire, Carmilla. There's definitely queer reading in Dracula, if you look at Dracula and Jonathan Harker, and just Bram Stoker's love of, was it Walt Whitman? Or adoration, I should say, adoration of Mr. Whitman. But yeah, there's always been a sort of queer edge to vampire edge. There's always been a queerness to vampires. I can language sometimes. So in the 80s, we have stuff like The Hunger, where we have Susan Sarandon and David Bowie vying for the affections of the sexy blonde vampire. And honestly, same. And that ends disastrously for everyone, really. We have My Best Friend's a Vampire, which is actually really great. I don't think it's as well known as the other films I'm going to be mentioning, but it's a very cute vampire movie with Sean Leonard Robert Sean Leonard. He has 3 names. They're all first names. I don't know what order they go in. He played, he was in House, the not Watson character, Wilson. If you're a fan of that. He was also, more importantly, the very queer-coded actor guy who unalived himself in the Dead Poet Society. So here he plays another queer-coded character. He was queer-coded in House too, as Wilson. Wow, just everything he does. So he's in this film, My Best Friend's a Vampire. He and his best friend are, I suppose there's a queer reading to that, but I think more importantly, the interesting thing that I like about this film is that in the film, his parents think that he's gay, and they're like reading books about like how to accept your queer child, and are very accepting of him, and are just kind of encouraging him to like come out to them, but like on his own time. They're not pressuring him. Like, it's actually very progressive, and the film itself is pretty fun. It's very similar to Once Bitten with Jim Carrey, if you've seen that, although I don't know off the top of my head if Once Bitten has a queer coding. Like, I that's not something that popped out to me when I watched it. Then we have Fright Night. Oh my god. I mean, in addition to like half of the primary cast being queer, with Stephen Jeffries, Roddy McDowall, and Amanda Bierce, all being queer people. Just the whole Jerry Dandridge and Billy Cole were definitely a couple. Don't fight me on this. It's obvious. It's true. And then the director, Tom Holland. Yes, that's Tom Holland. No, not that Tom Holland. The other Tom Holland. He directed Child's Play, which was, of course, a script by Don Mancini, who is a gay man. And I think he also wrote Cellar Dweller, I want to say. In the 80s, I don't know as many queer directors and writers as I could probably name you in the 90s, because Kevin Williamson came out with a bang, and that kind of really opened the door for a lot of other queer voices, I think. There certainly were in the 80s. I'm going to mention a few in just a second, but not as many come to my mind. And maybe there are, and they maybe came out later, and I'm just not as aware of it. For instance, Joel Schumacher, a queer man, directed The Lost Boys, another vampire film. You're going to sit there and you're going to look me in the face and you're going to tell me Sam is not gay? Come on. He had a poster of Rob Lowe in his closet. Like, the boy ain't batting straight. And then also David and Michael. Why is Star even in the movie? I don't understand. Just get rid of her. They're lovers. It's fine. Another queer man who was writing and directing at the time, who is just a really phenomenal horror writer, Clive Barker, in the 80s directed Hellraiser, which is a one hell of a movie. I'll leave it at that. One hell of a movie. I don't necessarily know if it's overtly queer, but also it definitely is, and I don't know how to explain it in a way that would ever make sense or that I would ever want to put online. Then when we get to what I call the New York protest films, Windows and Cruising, honestly, Hellraiser and Cruising would make a wild double feature. Windows, to me, they came out, I think, within a month of each other. They were filmed around the same area in New York. They were both protested, I think rightfully so. And, to my mind, Windows was regressive when it came out, and it maintains its level of problematic. It's about a lesbian who is just evil and trying to get a woman to fall in love with her, and it's awful. It's awful. Although I will say it's, I believe, off the top of my head, I didn't look it up to double check, but I believe the director was the cinematographer for, I want to say, The Godfather or something, some very prestigious film. Like, he's a really, really great cinematographer, and he directed it. And it's his first directorial debut. That's repetitive. It's his first time director. I will say the film is visually very, very well done. It's a marvel to watch, but the context of the film and the plot of the film, I think, is very problematic. But then Cruising, to my mind, was problematic when it came out. And it's a rare film where I will say I definitely understand why people were apprehensive about it when it came out, because it was made at that really beautiful, blissful time in the late 70s, where queer people who, fell from the sky in 1968 and started the Stonewall Riot were finally making some progress and starting to get some rights and a move towards equality. But then AIDS happened, and that just slammed the door on that. And then also there's, I don't know if people notice this, it's just a general thing that happens. You can see it throughout society in different cultures, and certainly in the US politics and just society in general. Culturally speaking, typically we'll have like a time where we are being a bit more progressive, and then there'll be a very severe kind of conservative backlash that happens. And that definitely was what was happening in the 80s. And I would say, as recording this in 2025, is certainly something that's happening now, sort of a one step forward, two steps back sort of thing. And AIDS, along with just the more conservative outlook at the time, really closed the door on a lot of those rights. And so I understand Cruising came out this really just blissful moment in 1980 where, things weren't as bad as they were going to be. But people were really trying to get rights, be able to get married and shit. But I think it's less regressive now, which sounds weird, I know, but this was also kind of before the stranger danger movement started. And I think there's, as someone who grew up in that era, which obviously that's whole issue in and of itself, but there is something to say about, hey, all you men going off with a dude you don't know to get undressed and have sex with, yeah, that is dangerous. You are putting yourself in a very vulnerable situation, that if there is a killer, statistically speaking, that's the person they're going to kill, right? So that, watching that in the 21st century doesn't seem as reductive as it probably did in the 80s, when a lot of people were not out, because obviously it was a scary time to be out back then. And so a lot of people had very incorrect ideas about queer people, and this kind of painted them in more of a reductive caricature. So I do think, again, that is something that, yeah, it was problematic back then and it's less problematic now, which is rare, but that's just my opinion on it. If people have different opinions, totally valid. I wouldn't even argue it. wouldn't even stand my ground on it, not dying on the hill. It's just kind of my opinion. But Cruising is an interesting film, and Windows, they're both very much gritty New York movies. We don't really see that kind of film anymore. I kind of miss it, really. Maniac's not queer, but it's just another one. Anyway, I'll move on. And we have films that have like queer characters, like Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker and Angel. In Butcher Baker Nightmare, actually both those movies have oh my god, I can't think of her name. The aunt in Butcher Baker Nightmare is also in Angel. Dude, she's so famous, and I'm totally blanking on her name. That is gonna kill my actual soul. And I can't look it up because it'll be too much noise. It's gonna bother me. No. Well, anyway, in Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker and Angel, if you don't know Angel, I can't think what year it came out. I want to say 83 or 84. It's that film you may have seen with it's like the girl, she's an honor student by day and a Hollywood sex worker by night. And it's actually pretty good, which sounds weird, but she's a very queer, like, found family, which is very cool. There's a character who kind of acts as a parent towards her. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be a trans woman or a man who cross dresses. Obviously, in the 80s, they hadn't quite figured out there was a difference between that. Susan Tyrrell's her name. She's amazing. She's in both films. Anyway, so I can't quite tell who this character is supposed to be. I'm assuming it's a trans woman. So she's like a kind of a parent character for like a bunch of these different young sex workers, and kind of a bitchy friend to Susan Tyrrell's sort of butch lesbian character. And it's a, it's not the best movie ever made, Angel, but it's definitely a movie I would totally say is worth checking out. It's on Tubi. Watch it if you haven't seen it. Although you will never look at an egg the same way again. Nightmare fuel. And then you have Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker again with Susan Tyrrell. And there's this homophobic cop, and the main character, he's a high school boy, has a gay basketball teacher. And he's really, the homophobic teacher, or the homophobic cop is like really going after the teacher, and the student's really defending himself, and the homophobic cop is thinking the kid's also queer. It's a whole thing, but I like that, like, the homophobic cop is definitely seen as being a bad guy. The film absolutely paints him as the bad guy and like in the wrong, and the teacher is very much a good guy, and it does end up saving the day, so that's cool. That's not something that happens often. Kind of very similar to Angel, that the queer people are the good guys in the film. They do end up being victims in that one, but they're the good guys. And I think these are two like lower budget films, more indie, not like a major studio, but is what I mean. And typically major studios will stay away from anything that's considered controversial because they want to get as many eyes on this film as possible. So generally, when you want a more queer film, particularly when you go further back in time, you're going to need to go indie to get it. We get to like Sleepaway Camp, Angela, and her two gay dads. Let's not forget her gay dads. I think we often do. But this girl, underline girl, was right. We stan Angela, okay? And her two gay dads, who did die at the opening of the film. But I mean, honestly, they had to go. It's a horror movie. Heathers, I'm just going to leave it at, I love my dead gay son. Yes, I do. And then we have Lair of the White Worm, which is a Ken Russell film. Ken Russell is an interesting man who makes interesting movies. I think on every single movie I watched by his on Letterboxd, my review is just, is Ken Russell okay? Did someone check on him? In this film, we see Peter Capaldi with a very young Hugh Grant, which I've decided they're gay. They're not, but in my mind they are. And more importantly, there's the sexy snake lady who dances out of a basket with the largest strap on you will ever see. And I'm pretty sure she's going to essay this virgin to death. And honestly, I don't know if I'm traumatized, hypnotized, or aroused. But there's something gay about it. Brain Damage, the Frank Henenlotter film. Listen, Aylmer's a penis, and it's definitely very queer. I can't. As I was watching it, I'm like, I felt like it was an allegory for like a trans femme existence, but I think it's gay. And I know it's intended to be right an allegory for drug addiction, but it's gay. It is. Fear No Evil is about Satan being reborn as a teenager, I think, and a boy kisses him when he's in the shower, and then suddenly he gets powers. This is like the best version of Carrie. It really is. It's very much Carrie. It has a great soundtrack. It is often very boring, but the beginning and the end are worth watching because they're spectacularly ridiculous. And Rainbow, I'll leave it there. Hard Rock Nightmare. Okay, this movie. To the man who directed it, I don't know. He did Hard Rock Nightmare and Evil Laugh. Well, there's a very queer sequence in Hard Rock Nightmare. I really like the movie. I don't know if I should, but I do, and I'll move on. And there are so many movies that, like, if you squint, you can see a queer reading to it, like Green Demon, Reanimator, Night of the Creeps. There's a lot, but these are just some ones I wanted to talk about so you can kind of get an idea about where we were in terms of queer representation. It was still very much queer coding, generally not very overt, or oftentimes when it was overt, it was generally pretty reductive and like portrayals of caricatures and stuff. But these films I thought were, for the most part, I mean, excluding Windows, tended to rise above that a little bit, which I appreciate. And I really like all these films. And if you have one that I didn't mention, please leave it down below. Would love to watch it, or maybe I just forgot about it. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Monster in the Closet. I'm sorry, I had such a long intro. We open with a red backlit skyline logo. Lloyd Kaufman and Michael Hertz presents a Troma teen release. So you know you're in store for something amazing. We open with narration that we close with the same narrator. With the opening, we're looking at landscape, and then we get 3 opening kills. I'll explain those in a minute. But I just want to say at the end, like we're bookending it. So at the end, we actually see the narrator and learn that he is a broadcast reporter. I'm going to read this. I'm going to do my best to read this. It is ridiculous. Okay. The most mysterious, unexplainable, and inexplicable events often take place in the most ordinary places. Places like the small, quiet college town of Chestnut Hills. Usually, these seemingly unexplainable occurrences are eventually explained, but every so often they remain mysteriously inexplicable. Sometimes it is best to accept the unexplainable rather than to search in vain for inexplicable explanations, for some things are simply unexplainable. The movie you are about to see is one of them. Oh, so they're telling you at the beginning, don't think too much about it. Am I going to listen? No. No, we're unhinged, baby. We're looking for those unexplicable, unexplainable, I don't even know what's happening, events and stuff and things. Okay. The person doing the intertitles, so like the wording at the bottom of the screen, that'll tell you like the location and the place and stuff like that. I said location and place, location and time. This person was going crazy. He drops out about halfway through the movie, but we learned that we're in Chestnut Hills, California, and it's Wednesday, April 21st. And we're going to get our first opening kill. A blonde college sorority girl for Delta Pi Pi sorority, Mary Lou Caldwell, at 11:15 a.m. She was killed by a closet monster, and I would just like to note that she had a great Tom Selleck poster. Gotta love that Magnum PI. Till he started selling mortgages. Then, intertitle, Friday, April the 23rd, 9:47 p.m. We have a blind man, played by John Carradine, very famous, we probably already know who he is, who's trying to abuse his dog before he's killed by a closet monster. Unfortunately, the dog is killed too, so we do not stand the closet monster because he's a dog murderer. Does the dog die.com? Yes. Okay, intertitle. The following Monday or Tuesday, April the 26th or 27th, 3:15-ish, we get a little girl killed by the monster in the closet. The little girl is literally, I'm not kidding you, Stacy Ferguson. Yes, that's right, Fergie. Actual literal Fergie was in this movie. She couldn't have been more than 6. That's wild, especially when you learn who else is in this movie. Sorry, I keep having to take drinks. I don't know how loud that is. Okay, anyway, cue opening credits. All right. I don't know if the movie has ever had I don't know who does the intertitles, but whoever it is, I don't think anyone has ever worked so hard. So they open intertitle, San Francisco, California, Wednesday, May the 16th at the Daily Globe. It's 9:43 a.m. End quote. The reporters are reporting at the Daily Globe. We meet our bespectacle-wearing hero, Richard Clark. And they should have just called him Clark Kent. He would have been perfect casting for Superman. I want to be very clear. The way this man looks is pivotal to the plot of the film. It is important. Okay, it's this dude is good, all caps, italicized, looking. Okay, he's clearly a nerdy guy who wants to prove himself. He got his job because his uncle owns the paper, the Daily Globe, and that makes him kind of self-conscious, but he clearly believes in himself and advocates for himself. His issue is that he just wears those glasses, so he has to act bumbling. Anyway, Clark goes in to talk to his editor-in-chief, Mr. Bernstein. Ben, played by Jesse White, who is a working actor. He's been in so many things, like a lot of episodes of TV and small films and stuff like that. Very recognizable man. Ben seems nice and pretty genuine, but also a newsman, you know. Clark wants to write something more substantial, and he's hesitant to ask. Currently, he's writing obituaries. I will be referring to him as Clark and only as Clark, by the way. So this hotshot reporter, creatively named Scoop, played by Frank Ashmore from V, like V, the miniseries in the 80s about the aliens who come over and eat lizards, or they are lizards and they eat rodents and people. There's V, the Final Battle, which was the sequel miniseries, V, the television series that ran from 84 to 85, and there was a remake in 2009, which had 2 seasons. I do a podcast reviewing that called Review. I'll link it below if anyone is interested. We review every single episode, and we hope to move on to the recently made Big Finish audio dramas, which is super fun. I love Frank Ashmore. He played Martin, and then Martin's evil twin, Philip. It got very soap opera-y at the end. Anywho, so he's this kind of jerk. So he comes in and he antagonizes our hero. Scoop literally pulls out an old story from 3 weeks ago, like actually out of the trash can, and hands it to Clark to work on. The story reads, 3 closet murders baffle Chestnut Hills Police. I really can't read. So it seems like an interesting story. 3 people were found dead within a week. Each body found with 2 mysterious punctual marks on it. And oh my God, there are vampires in San Francisco. And Rice was right. Go get him, Daniel Malloy. So Clark is overwhelmed with gratitude and eagerness to get a story like this. He drives 15 miles north to San Francisco, while eating a candy bar, specifically a Crunch bar. I don't know why I thought that was important. I'll talk about it later. So he drives to the Chestnut Hills Sheriff's Department, arriving around 1:10 p.m. Again, intertidal guy going crazy. There he meets Professor. Professor is a nerdy child doing experiments like recording noises. He's played by Paul Walker. Yes, that Paul Walker. Clark buys 2 more candy bars and gives one to the professor, even though he's clearly states he's not allowed to eat the candy bar and don't take candy from strangers. Although he did literally just see it come out of the vending machine, and it is a very old school vending machine. I was looking at that thing like I wouldn't even know how to work that. The intertitle states 2 chocolate bars later. His mom, Diane Bennett, comes out, finds him eating candy, even though she clearly told he wasn't supposed to, so she's rightfully angry. We learn that she is a professor of biology at the university. We don't learn until the end of the movie. It's Chestnut Hills University. For the whole movie, I just figured she was like working at Berkeley or something. Anyway, she's obviously a health nut, and I assume she's a doctor, so I'll be calling her Dr. Diane because we're putting respect on that woman's name. I think it's important to note, but also ignore the boom mic in the shot at this point. Look, Clark's a tall guy, and the boom mic operator clearly was taken by his beauty. We get it. We understand. We move on. So he's eating, like I said, he's eating Crunch bars, a lot of Crunch bars. And at first I was like, man, does anyone remember those? I don't feel like I've seen one in like 10 years. I really miss Crunch bars. But then I realized, I wonder if Crunch, did they pay for that like ad spot, or did they just use it or like in hope that nobody would care? I don't know. I hope that Crunch paid for this, because I would like to believe that Crunch would be like, a movie about a gay monster. Sign us up. We'll pay for your movie. Anyway, back to the scheduled events. We meet Sheriff Ketchum. Gotta catch 'em all, gotta catch 'em all. He's played by Claude Atkins, who you would most likely recognize from that episode of The Twilight Zone, The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. Maple Street? Maple Drive. I think Maple Drive. Oh God, I don't know. See, I'm already lost. Where's my intertitle guy? He's a working actor, Claude Atkins. You've probably seen his face in something. He's in so many things. Clark talks about the murder, or he and Clark talk about the murder. Sheriff Ketchum chews tobacco, and therefore I hate every second of he's on screen because ew. Dr. Diane apparently believes the closet monster could be somehow related to a snake, giving the puncture holes found on all the victims. The Sheriff Ketchum believes it's just a homicidal maniac. You know, your run-of-the-mill homicidal maniacs. Just a crazy guy killing people. Maybe stabbing them with a steak knife. Not a steak knife. What is that 2-pronged thing you would find in the kitchen? I don't cook meat. I don't know what that is. You know what I'm talking about. Or you don't. It's like a fork, but there's 2 prongs and they're very sharp. And I feel like I've only ever seen people use them to stab steak. I move on. Shouldn't have brought it up. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Sheriff Ketchum takes Hot Clark to where they found Mary Lou, the sorority girl at Delta Pi Pi. I really don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly or I made a typo. I'm going to move on. So meanwhile, intertitles in the building next door at 2:17 p.m., the shower, end quote. We see a woman showering. I believe this actress is Stella Stevens. She was pretty well known for being like in Playboy, as well as I would say you most likely to have seen her in the original Poseidon Adventure. And we meet her husband, Roy, played by Paul Dooley. You'd most likely have seen him as the dad in 16 Candles. But again, working actor, you probably recognize this man. He keeps interrupting her, and they're playing both on Psycho, you know, the woman in the shower trope, as well as the Rule of 3, because he keeps coming in. So you keep thinking something's going to happen, but nothing happens until he actually gets, eaten by the closet monster. But they really subverted our expectations by having the man be taken by the closet monster and the one in peril, not the woman showering. And honestly, I love to see that she wasn't in danger. That's actually pretty cool. Also, the water pressure, I would kill for that water pressure. My God. And also, Stella Stevens was around like 45 years old at this point. And it's honestly just kind of nice to see a woman in her 40s in the shower being kind of sexualized, which I mean, yeah, it's not great seeing women constantly being sexualized, but like it's nice to see an older woman who, hasn't doesn't look like she's had a lot of work done, just like a beautiful 45-year-old woman taking a shower. Like, I don't know, it was nicer. And also this is the only time we have any nudity in the film. Dr. Diane does not undress. So and I will say neither does Clark. Well, we'll come back to that. But I don't know, it's kind of nice. Kind of nice to see it. Sheriff Ketchum and Clark hear Stella scream about her husband being killed by the closet monster. She's, very upset, kind of in a shock. And Sheriff Ketchum and Clark run upstairs to check things out. Clark finds a tooth or a claw, I'm not really sure, but he takes the evidence, which is really smart and wise and helpful, not at all illegal. Way to go, Clark. Anyway, cut to Clark at the university waiting to speak to Dr. Diane without intertitles. Intertitle, man. How am I supposed to know where we are? How am I supposed to know when we are? Great. You abandon us. Now I'm going to have to figure things out for myself. Anyway, she takes him to meet Dr. Pennyworth. I'm assuming his first name is Alfred for reasons. He's played by Henry Gibson, who you might know as the lead. Jesus, why am I like this? The lead Illinois Nazi from the Blues Brothers, as well as the doctor / neighbor in the Burbs. He's a very recognizable man as well, although in this film he looks like Einstein. Anyway, he invites Clark to Dr. Diane's for dinner and to analyze the claw further. And Clark eagerly agrees to go to Dr. Diane's for dinner, even though she pretty clearly does not want him there. It's fine. They're going to fall in love. So cut to that night, unknown time at Diane's. I assume we don't have any intertitles. Intertitle guy. And she lives in this massive, like, dollhouse looking mansion. And they're eating a very healthy dinner. Specifically, they're eating eggplant, a wink. And for dessert, they're having cucumber pudding, a wink. It's all very phallic, if I do say so myself. So Dr. Diane is there, of course, because it's her house, with Dr. Pennyworth, Alfred, and a priest, Father Finnegan, who I'm just going to call Catholic guy, played by Howard Duff, another, working actor, and the professor, her son. And they're having a discussion about not killing a cockroach, and they disagree about the reason why, but they agree that they shouldn't kill the roach. I think it's an important conversation, but like we don't need to hear this because something more important happens. Clark is doing something at this moment. While they're talking about the ethics of killing a cockroach, which they agree on, they just disagree on the why, which is stupid. You're talking in circles. Dr. Diane sees Clark take his glasses off. And oh my God, you guys. The camera zooms in while she makes a lustful heart eyes at him. Her mouth is partly open, her head is tilted. A romantic song is playing because guess what? Oh my God, you guys. Clark is hot. He is hot. He's so good looking. And he looks perplexed at what's going on with Dr. Diane, just staring at him like this, like a crazy lady. So Professor and Clark then go to the attic to look at Professor's invention. I don't know, science stuff with a xylophone. They hear someone screaming in the street below and go to check it out. The cops, including Sheriff Ketchum, show up because, gotta catch them all. The closet monster comes out of the closet. What? I was really surprised that happened so early on in the movie and at all. He just like walks out of the house and approaches the sheriff who's standing in the middle of the street. And Ketchum is just standing his ground. It's a very untense scene. The sheriff shoots the closet monster, who is totally unfazed by the bullets, and then the closet monster kills the sheriff. I should say it has like a weird like tongue thing, very similar to like a xenomorph or a graboid. I'll just talk about the way the closet monster looks, which is to say it looks like feces. I don't like the design at all. And it's very loud. It's making these like guttural kind of breathing, like kind of noises. I absolutely hated it. But he is played by the Predator himself, Kevin Peter Hall, who's like 7 billion feet tall. So that's kind of cool. The closet monster is further shot by the police, still unfazed, although he does flip a cop car over, and honestly, good for him. And then he disappears into the night. Blom. We see newspaper articles flashing across the screen. 3 specifically read. The first one is monster attacks small town in California. The second one is closet creature claims fifth victim. Gotta love the illiteracy there. Alliteration. Oh my God. I'm doing this at 1 a.m. and clearly struggling. And the third one is president declares national emergency. So we learned from the news coverage that the troops, army divisions, and reserves have been deployed, which honestly shouldn't be the National Guard ? But whatever, we'll move on. And they tell people to put locks on their closet doors. So we're locking up the closets. We cannot be hiding in the closet. Or if we are, we're staying there. Then General Franklin D. Turnbull, who I will call Army Guy, played by Donald Moffat. You probably would know him from The Thing. He's the guy who's like, gentlemen, I know you've been through an awful lot. So when you find the time, I'd rather not spend the rest of this winter tied to this fucking couch. And I love that guy, and I love that line. He's in charge, so we know things are going to go great. Yeah, they're going to go great. Everything's going to be fine. Dr. Pennyworth is working with him for reasons, and Scoops, the reporter who originally kind of jokingly put Clark on the case, is now back on the case. So the closet monster came out of the closet, and the army is trying to destroy him. Yeah, that sounds about right. The movie thing gets kind of boring for a while, if I'm going to be honest. Clark has some low esteem. Scoops steals his story. Scoops goes to Dr. Diane's house. I'm really guessing the intertitle guy has completely left me high and dry. How am I to know? He goes to Dr. Diane's house because he wants to talk to Dr. Pennyworth, Alfred, after he saw him at the press conference with the army guys. He insults Clark and makes fun of him, who also went to Dr. Diane's house with a bouquet of flowers, and he's hiding behind the side of the house listening to this sad conversation. Oh, you awkward hot reporter. It's so hard being pretty and awkward. I wouldn't know. Dr. Diane really doesn't care at all about Scoops, and she spots Clark trying to sneak away and invites him in. And I'll just note that she's not wearing her glasses now, too. So she's also hot. Dr. Pennyworth, Alfred, and Catholic guy are arguing again. And I really should have been paying attention because I'm sure they're probably talking about the theme of the movie, but I just don't care. The Catholic guy's like, blah, blah, blah. Closet monster is one of God's creatures. And again, Dr. Pennyworth Alfred isn't disagreeing with him. He just wants to go about things differently. He wants to study and communicate with the monster, not kill it. So contrast them with the army guy who wants to kill it, no questions asked, call it a day. One might say, don't ask, don't tell. They just want them to go back into the closet. Crazy. I should have looked up when Ask Don't Tell started. I don't know, actually. I thought that was the 90s. Anyway, but you guys. Oh my God, you guys. Clark takes his glasses off to clean them, and poor Dr. Diane is defenseless. He is a danger. He is too damn hot. Keep your glasses on, Clark, you temptress. Professor apparently has recorded the monster, and that gives Dr. Pennyworth Alfred an idea. At this point, the movie becomes kind of like Close Encounters of a Third Kind, which honestly, I love that movie, so I don't mind at all. Let's do it. I'm gonna liken it to like a mating call. So Dr. Pennyworth, Alfred, Dr. Diane, Hot Clark, once again eating a crunch bar, and Catholic guy go around playing the xylophone to lure out the closet monster. I don't know where they go, because again, inner title guy left me. Scoop shows up and, they're walking around and Scoop finally gets to talk to Dr. Pennyworth and they continue going around playing the xylophone, looking for the closet monster. They get apprehended by the army, as you do. The army does monster math. I don't know, they do something with a map and time. I have seen this happen on Criminal Minds. I'm assuming there's real math here. But anyway, they try to predict where the closet monster is going to show up. Intertitle guy's back. Watson Elementary School, 7:12 p.m. We see the professors that's still at school, which I have questions about. Dr. Diane, did you just leave your child at school? Because I had that happen to me a few times. And honestly, the teachers give your parents really mean looks. And then you get a lot of pitying looks afterwards because you're being neglected. Everyone rushes to the school. And the monster's in the background walking around. It's so funny because we see Professor doing some experiments. And in the background, we see the door in the hallway, and the closet monster's walking around the hallway back and forth. So we just see him, going through the door before he finally spots Professor and then goes to attack him. It's kind of silly. It's ridiculous. It's very cheesy, very intense. I got a kick out of it. Closet monster gets Professor. And Hunky Clark saves him. It's actually so dumb. Everyone, including the army guys, are just standing around doing nothing as the closet monster takes this child, poor little Paul Walker. And Clark just runs over. And they're basically playing tug of war with this kid. And then the closet monster is dragging both of them because he's super strong. Because he's played by a man who's 7 billion feet tall. That's fact. This is scientific fact. That's his actual measurement of height. Anyway, eventually, Hunky Clark gets gets Professor out of his grasp. And like cowards, they then all run outside. And the closet monster follows them, unafraid. He has no fears. None. Dr. Pennyworth, Alfred, breaks out the xylophone. And it's kind of played like a romantic scene with the swelling orchestra music. But unfortunately, the xylophone does not trick the closet monster. He's not into Alfred. And the closet monster kills Dr. Pennyworth. R.I.P. As he's dying. Oh, I was a little bit too quick. As he's dying, Dr. Pennyworth tries to tell them how to stop the closet monster, but doesn't finish. So he only gets out, "We must destroy all." Now, R.I.P. Dr. Pennyworth. Alfred! The army guy is evacuating Chestnut Falls, but the closet monster has gone global. They don't really do a good job of showing that. They just tell us. And we learn from news anchors that the president and the UN are talking about what to do or whatever. They're having meetings, It's so helpful, all those meetings. Cut to Dr. Pennyworth's funeral. I don't know where, when, because my intertitle guy left again. Ugh, coward. And Catholic is presiding over the funeral. I don't know what the terminology is. With Dr. Diane, Professor Clark are all there. And I'm so sorry, Catholic. Your every line is, "It's better to be alive than dead." And yeah, no shit, dude. You're so deep. You're so deep. So deep and Catholic. Scoops shows up to the funeral to ask questions, which is dude, no. Get some tact. Get some class. Hot Clark and Scoop get heated. with their words. And Clark punches Scoop, knocks him out flat. But oh no, Clark's glasses falls off. And oh my God, you guys. Dr. Diane is enraptured. Same thing, close up into her eyes, head tilt, mouth slightly ajar. Clark looking on confused. Poor man just doesn't know the power he has. Clark, you ignorant slut, put your glasses on. So Dr. Diane, later on, Dr. Diane thinks she's figured out a way to stop the closet monster, and she sends Professor off with Catholic guy. And then she tries to convince the army to use electricity to stop the monster. I don't really know if she came to that conclusion. I wasn't paying attention. I was just watching Clark, the eye candy of the film. And she and Clark can remain in Chestnut Hills to try to kill the monster. There's a building trap montage. Gotta love that. It's an 80s movie. You kind of need one. It's a requirement, really. It is the law. Hey, Inner Child Guy is back. Chestnut Hills deserting, approaching 12 midnight, as opposed to all those other times midnight is, I guess. I guess 100 hours. Is that right? I'm gonna move on. Clark and Dr. Diane are broadcasting her playing the xylophone song at her house on the speaker. Did that sentence? She's playing the xylophone and they're amplifying the sound. He's eating another Crunch Bar. Honestly, because like I said, I hope that they paid for this. But then I was like, maybe they didn't. There's a joke here, but if there is, I don't get it. I don't know if there was some kind of joke back in the 80s about Crunch Bars. Well, I don't know. Question mark. It'd have been funny if it was a banana. Maybe a little too on the nose. I'm a pervert. We'll move on. The closet monster shows up. He breaks down the door. Long story short, their plan fails. Electricity does not hurt closet monster, and they're chased upstairs to the attic. Turns out Professor stayed behind, somehow ditching Catholic guy, and again, for some reason, Catholic guy didn't call Dr. Diane. Now he's neglectful. Damn it, Catholic guy. Anyway, Professor tries to take down the monster too with some invention he made that's pretty cool. Some sort of a laser thing. It's very futuristic, but yeah, that fails too. But oh my God, you guys. Hunky Clark's glasses falls off. And the monster is enraptured. He's enraptured. It is the same thing that we see with Diane. Head tilt, jaw open, close up, lustful staring. I think the music was kind of romantic. I might have been imagining that. I mean, this definitely didn't happen, but in my mind, the Lady in Red song was playing. That's not what happens, but it should have been. Should have been. Closet Monster has decided that that's his man. He picks up Hot Clark and carries him bridal style off in search of a closet. He carries him all over the world in search of a closet, and people watch on the news because they're filming this, I guess, as the closet monster carries Clark around. And we get news articles like, closet creature marches towards San Francisco. Newspaper reporter, wrong place, wrong time. And Dr. Diane goes on the air and tells people to destroy all closets because apparently that's what Alfred, Dr. Pennyworth, was trying to tell them. So we're treating another montage of people destroying their closets and just totally wreaking havoc. It's absolutely ridiculous. Take your clothes out first. Don't burn your house down. You don't need to beat your closet door with an axe. You could just take the hinges off. It's very easy. I have done it many a time. It's ludicrous. Anywho, but funny. It's a good time. The closet monster carries Clark to San Francisco to the last closet. I'm not making this up. It's ridiculous. The closet monster carries Clark, his man, to San Francisco to the last closet. The last remaining closet is in the Transamerica building. I was trying to see if there was a joke there. If there is, I didn't get it. I couldn't pull. I was trying to see what was in that building back in the 80s. I don't know. I didn't get any jokes. There used to be, I can't even remember now because I looked this up a few days ago, but there was a company that made chocolate bars, but it wasn't Crunch Bars because that's Nestle. Nestle as far as I know. Never did anything in the Transamerica buildings. I don't know. I tried so hard to find a funny connection and I got nothing, which is what is a bummer. So while this is happening, Catholic Professor and Dr. Diane are listening to reporters talk about Clark and the closet monster while in church. Interesting. It's like they're praying the gay away, one might say. I'm really sorry that rhymed. It wasn't intentional. The closet monster realizes that he won't fit into the closet with Clark. Like they both don't fit in the closet. And rather than return to the closet alone, the closet monster decides to leave the building with Clark in his arms and go back into the world with his mans and die. And he does. He dies. Side note, I do want to point out Clark has made no attempt to get away from the closet monster, hasn't said anything to him. They just be making eyes at each other. I feel like that's important. When the monster dies, everyone leaves the church to go check on Clark, who's laying under the closet monster because it fell on top of him. Again, the closet monster is played by a man who's 7 billion feet tall. That's a fact, measured height. His factually accurate number of height that man has. I said it that way intentionally. Okay. And oh no. Oh my God, you guys. Clark's glasses are gone, and Dr. Diane is also gone. She is sent. It is the end of her. I'm serious. She never gets another line. She just spends the rest of the movie staring at him in awe. I was wrong when I thought that this man was Helena of Troy, the man who launched 1,000 closet monsters. No. He's Medusa. He just being enthralling people. He's the vampire. I got it now. He responds to various reporters' questions, and the Catholic guy drops a line from King Kong. It wasn't the closet. It was beauty killed the beast. Ben, Clark's editor, is there too, and he tells him he's going to write an article about this. He tells Clark that he can write the article about this, I should say. And we close out with our broadcaster, who was the original narrator from the beginning. And the end came swiftly, and the world was saved. It was improbable, unexplainable, a complete mystery. But this isn't the time for worrying about explanation. It's a time for joy and celebration, a time to hold your loved ones and give thanks. Go home, my friends. Go back and rebuild your closets. Inner title, returned, the end. But I know the narrator told me not to question it and rebuild my closet. But like, what's the moral of the story? Because it seems like queer people stay in your closet because it's safe there, but maybe love is worth dying for, but also go back in the closet and shut up, you bitch. That does kind of seem like what the moral of the story was. If you have seen the movie and have a different read, please tell me, because I think it'd just be so funny. If you're bored, like I like to go and read on Letterboxd reviews people left for movies I don't like, or movies that I think are ridiculous like this, and just see what other people say, because it's something that, like, if you're having a bad day and you just have a few minutes to like scroll, it'll probably brighten your day. I love it. So this is definitely one of those movies I will read people's reviews of to get a kick. It was, I think, a very fun movie. I deeply enjoyed it. How, goofy and cheesy, but sweet it was. I made fun of Clark a lot, but I really liked him. He was played by Donald Grant. I've never seen him in anything else. I couldn't really find any information about him, really. And even the writer-director, Bob Dolan, I didn't find really any information about him. But there were so many famous people in this movie, like Mr. Predator himself, 7 billion feet tall, Kevin Peter Hall, Fergie, John Carradine, oh my God, Frank Ashmore, Paul Walker, Henry Gibson, Howard Duff, Donald Moffat, like Claude Atkins, like almost everyone in this movie is super famous. Well, I don't know about super famous, but super well known. Definitely a face I've seen. Like this, if I was the gif of Leo DiCaprio from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that would have been me the whole movie. Like, oh, I know that one. I know that one. I know that one. I will say it also does read pretty well like a rom-com, I think, question mark. I mostly watch horror movies. Um, so I might be wrong, com, but it does seem like kind of like a rom-com, right? Because we have Dr. Diane likes Hot Clark, and the closet monster likes Hot Clark, and Hot Clark likes Dr. Diane. But the closet monster decides to abduct Hot Clark, right? And he takes his man because it's his man. This man is his. The man is his. And then we have, so that's like our internal conflict from within the love triangle, right? And then our external conflict is the army and government being homophobic. So that's a thing. And yeah. So, and then he's just trying to get them in a situation, closet monster that is, trying to get them in a situation where they can survive, but fails to do so. So decides that it is better to die than to be alone. 'Twas beauty killed the beast, not the closet. And then Clark, I assume, goes off to be with Dr. Diane, but they can't be married because when Catholic guy presides over their wedding and he says, "Do you take this man to be your awfully wedded husband?" Awfully wedded husband? Lawfully. Forgot the L in there. I'm just so against the idea of a husband. I'm like, awful, gross, unintentional on my part, but funny. When you get a great Freudian slip like that, your lawfully wedded husband. She's just going to be looking into this man's face, unable to say anything, and people are going to think like he drugged her, and he's going to go to prison, and that will be the end of Hot Clark because he's not going to last in prison. He's definitely going to need those glasses back. They're going to need to tape those things to his face. He's a danger to society. So really, what we learned here today is that question mark. I don't know. Don't rebuild your closet. Go out into the world and die. But live free, man. Live free or die hard. Fuck homophobia. Thank you for listening. I don't know why I did. I'm so sorry. This is so stupid. Yeah, stay with the rainbows, gays and ghouls. Go out. Ay.